Hey team, welcome. This video I'm going to show you a little bit of an orientation to our human systems course shell in Brightspace. So some of this you've already seen because when you first log in the course, this is the page roughly that you'll see. This will have some of the instructor buttons here and there, but overall the format will be basically about the same. So once you jump in, make sure that you've already gone through the overview and the syllabus section. We're going to start in the coursework and content section, but a reminder that you do want to check the announcements. I do try to post announcements to keep us updated, especially during the period when we're not meeting in person. Also, if you scroll down here, you can see some of our due dates in the calendar, and then you have quick links to each of the modules. But I'd recommend in the very beginning that you start off by first going to coursework and then content, and that's what I'd like to orient you to. So most of our work will be in the coursework and content section. Once you land for the first time, you should be directed to the overview and syllabus page. So here we can see we've got some course information like the competencies that we'll be testing on at the end of the term and learning objectives that are covered in this course associated with the paramedic standards set forth by the Department of Transportation. Also, make sure you download and review the syllabus. It has a lot of important information in it, and you'll be taking a syllabus quiz. And as stated here, you're going to want to move after this page to the Getting Started module. So let's do that. All right, scrolling back up, a few things to highlight. As you save pages and make progress in the course, you might be able to save pages that you want to review later or have quick access to, and the bookmark sections where your bookmarks will be for that. Let's go to the Getting Started section, where you likely found this video. So there's two sections here for human systems. First, there's the Getting Started area. We'll dive into that in a moment. And then there's your schedule. Make sure you download the schedule. It has the final due dates for all of our assignments, exams, and a week-by-week outline of which modules we'll be working on. But before we get into the content, make sure you spend some time in the Getting Started section. Here, you'll find the video in this section here once I post it. You've got a description of our office hours for this section, and this video was made in one term. Make sure you review your section's office hours because they may be different than the video I'm posting here. Review the communication section, including a link to my preferred email. If this is the first time that you've used Brightspace in a while, you might want to go through some of the online student resources through this link found in course navigation. And then there's links here on the second tab to tech help and data protection and privacy sections from CNM. The course-specific information will be under major assignments and course information. The major assignment section has some of the tabs that are essentially just restatements of things that are in the syllabus. So all of our major assignment categories are listed here, and in each one of them it has a description and a link perhaps to the content that you need if relevant. And you can find a description of the items that you'll need to cover, and you can see certainly the percentage of your grade that it includes, including all the way down through extra credit. In this course, let's cover some of these just verbally. In this course, you'll have a syllabus quiz that you'll need to complete. According to the syllabus, you need to complete that with 100% in order to pass this course, no matter what your grade is. So it is a course requirement. In order to complete that, you'll want to review all the tabs here in this section, the syllabus, the schedule, and the EMS student handbook, all things that are found in this course before you take that quiz. And I'll show you where the quiz is before we're done with this video. Homeworks are going to be a collection of things. In most modules, you'll have a homework assignment that allows you to work focusing specifically on some of the anatomy and the structures of the human body that relate to a module. And since we don't have a cadaver or in some cases even a class to meet in to do model work, this will be an important concept for memorizing structures of the human body that you'll be utilizing all through the rest of our program. And so instead of having the ability to get your hands on and look at these models, the next best thing that we have for you are coloring book pages and opportunities for you to draw structures. In that, I recommend you use a lot of color. You don't have to necessarily be an artist, but you want to use a lot of vivid color. Make sure that you're spending time memorizing and labeling the structures that I provided for you, because you'll likely see those structures again somewhere, including sometimes on quizzes. I'll have a portion of the coloring book for you to label on a quiz or exam. Also, we have Complete Anatomy, and Complete Anatomy is a program that you'll have access to on your apps Sometimes we don't get the codes on the first week of class, just a warning. So I won't have anything required from Complete Anatomy until I give you your personalized license, but that will come as communication during the course. But once we get our licenses up and running, many of, but not all, of our modules have a complement in Complete Anatomy where you can explore the human body, you can dissect and look at structures, and it's got a wealth of knowledge that are even outside of the things that I assign. However, I have made specific lessons that go with our modules that you can access in Complete Anatomy that guide you through screens, dissections that I've personally made for you, and resources that others have made that I've collected into a lesson that helps you in, again, the absence of a cadaver lab. Homework assignments will be completed by uploading the homework into Brightspace and completing your assigned work in Complete Anatomy. Generally, every module has a quiz, and usually the quizzes are associated with a chapter. When you're completing the quizzes, these quizzes are online, and you have essentially 24 hours a day and unlimited attempts before the final due date to get them done. I recommend that you complete your homework and your quizzes on the week that we cover the module, but you'll see that our due dates, our final due dates, are listed in the schedule. The quizzes are going to be recorded in your gradebook with only the highest attempt that was completed before the actual due date. So if you start off by taking a quiz just to see what's on the quiz and not really even worried about your grade, as long as you complete the quiz later on and get a higher grade, any lower attempts won't matter. So you're welcome to take as many attempts as you'd like to see, as many questions as you'd like to as well before that due date. But please don't share these to other outlets because these are questions that are approved to us by our publisher or written in-house, and they are covered by academic integrity. So although you can review them, you can print them and view them, do not place them onto third-party study apps or share answers to these quizzes otherwise, because they may violate academic integrity. Participation is made up of your work online, and if this course is meeting in person as well, then your in-person performance. The online portion is going to be evaluated by when you log in, how long you spend online, and which areas you access, because all of that is recorded in Brightspace for any course that you take. But more importantly, your progress in meeting deadlines and completing work is really the measurement for your online participation. When we're meeting in person for an actual class, if your section includes a in-person class session, then your activities and participation with any class activity when we're meeting in person is also calculated into your participation grade. This covers the section exams. We have 4 sections in this course, and then the final. So we have 4 sections exams that cover all of the content in this course before you take the final, and the final is comprehensive and has no new information on it that was not covered in a previous section. Each of your section exams is going to be administered with 1 attempt taken online utilizing a computer program called Respondus Lockdown Browser and the function of using your webcam and microphone to record you while you take the entire exam, again for exam security. So it's essentially an online proctored exam. You'll need to utilize the lockdown browser to access the exams and open them. You'll have 1 week to take the exam, again 1 attempt. You can take it 24 hours a day within that 1 week up until the actual due date. You'll also find that the due dates that are associated with each module are going to be the same due dates for the exam that covers that module. And then we'll have a course final exam. The requirement to graduate this class and move on to the next term, if you complete all of your term 1 classes, requires you to complete the syllabus, as mentioned before, the syllabus quiz, then get a 70% score on our final exam, and have a 70% overall academic score at the end of the term, including your final exam calculation. The final exam will be open for 1 week. Generally, you'll need to complete exam 4 before you can take the final exam, so that may limit the time period depending on when you take exam 4. The final exam will either be done in class or proctored online, but either way, it'll either require you to have the video and camera with microphone running while you take the exam through Respondus Lockdown Browser if you're allowed to take it online in your section, or you'll take it in person in a lab where you're proctored by your instructor. Throughout the term, I generally do give extra credit opportunities. The way extra credit works is I'll generally apply the extra credit at the end of the term, so it won't be calculated into anything until I start calculating your final course grades. The extra credit is usually applied either to some assignment as a replacement grade or to help bring up one of your section, but not your final, one of your section exams scores. Generally, that would look like 5 or 10% for completing an extra credit assignment applied to your lowest exam score. Again, this is not generally applied to the final exam. All right, those are our major assignments and assignment sections. In the course information tab, you'll find lots of important information. Again, some of that will also be reflected on your syllabus quiz. Here's a link to the actual syllabus, but it would be the same link to the syllabus that we saw when we first landed in the course. This is some information on deadlines, and so I'll just verbally tell you an important component of the deadlines for my courses in the paramedic program. Generally, I provide you with essentially 2 deadlines, but I make it very easy by only having one that's published. So the first is to realize that in the schedule, when you look at the schedule, you'll notice that there are final deadlines set, and then every week I generally outline what the suggested due date is for the work of that week. The recommended due dates are due dates that I suggest that you follow, but they are not hard deadlines necessarily. These are recommended due dates. Basically, my recommendation is always that you complete any of the assignments, quizzes, homework, and complete module work as well during the week that we have it listed on the schedule. However, the final due date is a different date, and the final due date is the date that's entered into Brightspace and is the date that you see in your course calendar. It's also listed, of course, in the schedule. The final due dates are not weekly driven. The final due dates are driven by the exam that content falls under. So for exam 1, we'll be covering modules 1 through 3. If exam 1 happens in week 4 and it's due on Sunday of week 4 at 11:59 p.m. Brightspace time, then all of the work that's included in any module on exam 1 is going to be due on that date. So if that date were to be September 16th, for whatever year that you're taking, and that's a Sunday, if September 16th is the due date for exam 1, then the final due date for module 1, lesson 1 quiz, module 1, lesson 1 homework assignment, and so on will be the same date. So that September date that the exam is due. This is a benefit for you for a few reasons. One, you only have really 4 major due dates to focus on for most modules, and that is one of the due dates for each of the exams. So all of the coursework modules, coursework and assignments within any module for exam 1 will have the same final due date as exam 1 is due. This also makes it easy for you to basically know when everything in the course is due without having to have a large spreadsheet and getting a little bit confused as to how deadlines line up. Now, the catch is, again, that although I recommend you have a certain due date based within your week, generally the end of the week, Sunday at 23:59 would be what I would recommend, you can complete that work when it's good for you. So I've had students in the past that say for week 1, their work schedule would only really allow them to get everything done by not Sunday, but the Monday of the following week, the first day of week 2. That's fine if you get your work done on that day. But remember that everything is eventually due and cannot be done without a late assignment deduction and approval after that final due date. So you want to make sure that you review this section and enter in some dates of your own in your calendar. But what those dates are, aside from the final due dates, are really up to you. Don't fall behind in the course, though. It'll be very difficult to catch up, so you want to make sure that every week you're working on at least the modules that we've listed, if not moving ahead when you can. I've also provided an example and more benefits to us having a course schedule as listed here, so you can review those. And then here's a link to the course schedule as well. In the course expectations section, you can find some of the expectations from faculty, things that you can expect of me, and things that I will expect of you. And these things will be important for you to review, as they will be covered on the syllabus acknowledgement. You can also find our announcement and etiquette policy, which is generally standardized throughout all of our courses. In the grading and feedback section, you can find information that's basically reflected also in the syllabus that outlines what you have to do to complete the course, and what each section of our course assignments and activities falls under as far as a percentage of your overall grade. Contact information for me can also be found here. There's resources under our Learner Support tab. We have an EMS privacy policy that you can and should review. We have an ADA accessibility statement, a technology statement, and new to this course and this update, a justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion statement with the acronym of JEDI. So please do review all of these contents with the tabs of the Getting Started section before you start the course. And know that this is the background information that allows you to understand what the contract between you and C&M and myself is in completing this course, but it is not actually the work that you need to complete to get a grade for week 1. That's going to be found outside of this section. So once you're done here, go ahead and back up and go to our table of contents. And then we're going to scroll down find Module 1 as the first module that has graded content in it. So let's jump in that. All right, let's look at Module 1. So the Module 1 layout is basically, this is the only one I'm going to review, is basically the layout that you'll find similarly through all the other modules in this course, and also meets some of our new accreditation standards that you'll find in most modules within the paramedic program. So they all basically will look about the same. When you start a module, you'll have a description that tells you about the module, and in some modules I have multiple lessons. And so for this particular module, we have 2 lessons, and we outline the topics as listed here. As you scroll down, these are the course competencies. So these are the course competencies that were found in the syllabus and overview section, right up here. But they're only the course competencies that this particular module addresses. So all of our modules basically help build up these competencies and give you the ability to complete these skills. And so for this particular module, we're focusing on having a general understanding of the human body and looking at our ability to communicate and work as a professional. As we scroll down a little further, we can find the particular learning objectives that you're going to be introduced to through your reading, the interactive assignments, your homework, and assessed essentially in your quizzes, which will eventually become also assessed in your exams. So you do want to review these. These learning objectives are going to be the things that we basically say our course meets when we certify that you've completed the course. If I were you, I would print these off or copy and paste them to a document, and I would make them essentially a checklist that I can complete. And if you want your own personalized study guide for every module, then just copying these learning objectives and making sure that you can meet as they're described each one would be the perfect way to make sure that you've covered everything that's important for this module. As you scroll down, you can see these are separated by chapters from the human body textbook, which is our primary textbook. We'll scroll down a little further, and we'll find after that description, we've got now our content. So there's always going to be a module checklist, and why don't we take a look at it? The module checklist is basically going to cover all of the things that you need to do to complete this particular module and move on to Module 2. And again, we'll include both lessons. So here we have some introduction items that are kind of particular to Module 1. So I want to make sure that you get your syllabus quiz done. The syllabus quiz is generally due Thursday of week 1 and not with our other due dates, and that's made clear in our schedule outline. You'll want to review the schedule, as mentioned, if not already done so, and start putting those dates into your personal study calendar. If this course has introductions associated with it, especially for our online course, you'll want to make sure that you post the introductory discussion area. All right, regardless of what format this is delivered, the coursework online will be basically the same aside from posting discussions. So we're going to want to make sure we review the module description and learning objectives, like I mentioned before. That becomes basically a checklist for you. Once you're given the access code, and sometimes that happens a little bit after week 1, depending on when the vendor gives us those codes, unfortunately. But once you receive your access code and information, you're going to want to download the Complete Anatomy app. And we've provided basically an interactive lesson that helps quickly orient you to the powerful tools that are in Complete Anatomy, which would otherwise take you kind of a long time to do on your own. So make sure that as soon as you get that code, but you can't really do it before, as soon as you get that code, you come back and you work on the Complete Anatomy interactive lesson. Once those introductory things are done, we're ready to move on to Lesson 1. Module 1, Lesson 1 is going to cover essentially the introduction to anatomy and physiology in the human body, and then move on to basically biochemistry and organic chemistry. So Module 1, Lesson 1 has provided for you a study outline, and most of our lessons will have a study outline for you to use. That's a very personalized checklist that kind of outlines the specific things from the paramedic standard curriculum that we have to teach you, i.e. will be the same information that you're going to be tested on at National Registry. Download the Module 1 Lesson 1 homework document as well before you get started. I recommend doing that because as you go through your lessons, you'll probably find the information that you need to complete the homework, or at least be able to review that particular thing, like drawing an anatomical structure and labeling it when I'm covering it in the lecture or when you're doing your reading. So I always recommend, although you submit it much later, downloading that document first so you know what you have to complete and you can kind of work on it as you go. After you've downloaded that information, and there's a working hyperlink to grab it, you want to start working on our lesson. So most of our modules have interactive lessons, and interactive lessons are where you'll find information that's set up for you as a basically standalone lesson. There are pre-recorded videos, there are resources like PowerPoint files and so on that you'll find within each interactive lesson. Completing the interactive lesson is a big part of your participation, but you'll want to follow that through with submitting your homework and quiz assignments. I recommend after that you complete the lesson, and of course you could change this order a little bit if you'd like to, but I generally recommend doing the lesson first and then moving on to reading. The reason I like to do this is because this allows you the ability to get a preview of what's going on by my lessons, which are recorded for you exactly as I would deliver them if this was a 100% in-person class with no online components. So you get the benefit of reviewing the important concepts as they relate to EMS, and then when you go back and you read chapter 1, you'll be able to skim through some sections because you'll probably already understand them. So when you're going through the videos and the interactive lessons, make notes of the concepts in the PowerPoint file that you're not so sure about, that you're going to need to read a little bit more about or find another resource on, because that would be a good way to set up your own study guide when going to the reading of chapter 1 or any other chapter in the book. So once you have an idea of which items you need to read further on, then you can attack the textbook with a little bit more efficiency and probably will take you a great deal less time to get through. In some chapters, you'll want to read the entire chapter. For example, these introductory chapters, it will be pretty helpful to understand this for multiple classes in the future. Also, anything within the big three and some of our harder concepts, so neurology, cardiology, including a cardiovascular system, the respiratory section, including intubation introduction, and then sections that include endocrine and the urinary tract are also helpful. Otherwise, you'll likely be utilizing your textbook as if it's a dictionary or an encyclopedia in which you look up the information that you need that wasn't clear by watching the videos. In this particular module, I've got a couple extra resources, and you'll find both in Module 1, Lesson 1 and Module 1, Lesson 2, I provided very short videos that highlight specific concepts that are within our learning objectives. And these are videos that have animation often associated with them, and again, they're very, very fast and only on the topic. So you can approach these in a few ways. Most of the videos are not labeled aside from the ones that are optional. So you'll see a title, but it won't say necessarily required. So anything that's not labeled as optional is defaulted as required. Now you can watch these videos in a variety of ways. You could choose to read the chapter, and for chapter 1 there's only one video. But once you get to chapter 2 for this module, I'd recommend you kind of figure out which way you'd like to approach it. Some students like to watch all the videos because they'll answer questions for them in a way that meets their learning style, and again, most of these have animations for these introductory modules. Others like to watch them when they get through the reading. So that could look like you start reading and then you find a topic and you go through the list of videos and you watch a video on that topic to enhance what you're reading. Again, others will read the videos and then watch the videos and then their reading is much lessened. Or you could read the chapter if that's your learning style and then watch the videos to supplement. Either way, in our first module and lesson, we have two different sections and a collection of videos. Again, brief videos that you may or may not need to watch all of them. Now in this we have a section of videos on organic chemistry, and then a step up from that would be a section of videos on the organic compounds and chemical reactions that we have to be aware of. After completing the Module 1 lesson content, you'll want to submit your homework and complete the quiz. Your Module 1 Lesson 1 quiz is like all of our quizzes in which you'll be able to take it unlimited amount of times as you'd like to. Generally, there's a limited number of questions within that and a limited bank as well. So for example, I believe Module 1 Lesson 1 quiz, and it'll always be stated to you in the quiz description before you hit start, has 25 questions from a bank of about 100. So you likely want to take it about 4 times to see all the questions that are available and review your answers to those questions as well. Again, you'll submit the homework tool that you worked on and downloaded earlier in the lesson. Here it describes how you move on from Lesson 1 to Lesson 2. So the checklist for Lesson 2 is also found here as well. And you can go through between them, work through the links, and the format will be very, very similar. Once both Module 1 lessons, both Module 1 Lesson 1 and Module 1 Lesson 2 are complete, then you're ready to move on to Module 2. All right, again, the checklist is going to be a very important tool and you can come back to it. But again, there's working hyperlinks throughout this that should take you directly to the tool that you need to work on and make your life a little bit easier. All right, another tool I'd like to show you before we leave is just how we have our exams organized. For every exam, generally it'll be viewable at the beginning of the term. Download the exam guide and you'll have access to the link to the actual exam itself within that module. The exams will become available for 1 week, so they're not viewable themselves before the opening of that week, and you'll find that information in our schedule. You can take the exam one time within that week, 24 hours a day, anytime before the final deadline. Unfortunately, you can't review on your own the results of your exam. You'll just see a score once it's graded. However, if you would like to review how you personally did on an exam and identify which questions you did poorly on so that you can prepare to work on those things for your final exam, just schedule some time in the office hours with your instructor. All right, great. Hopefully that's a helpful overview of the components of the EMS2103 online course shell. And again, if you have any questions as you're making your way through, if you can't find something, if you're not sure how something works, although we're not meeting in the first 2 weeks of class at a live session as a requirement, you can always schedule office hours with me or just send me an email and ask me for some help, and I'd be happy to get you on the right track. Although this first week we'll be trying to figure out how things work, after the first week, once you understand how these components on the class work, they're duplicated throughout the rest of the course, so it makes it a lot easier for you to just focus when you sit down on the computer and log in on the content that you need to study. So spend the orientation time this week so you don't have to redo it every time that you open up this class. But it's set to make hopefully a user-friendly experience for you. All right, again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd be happy to schedule office hours with you. And otherwise, we can answer your questions by email. All right, everybody, stay safe. We'll see you in, I believe, week 3 if we're meeting in person, or we'll see you at our office hours if we're not. Thank you.